My name is Annabelle Wallace. I play Bridget Pierce. Bridget is a British stewardess, and she is a very elusive, mysterious character. She's kind of, you never really know what's going on with Bridget. She's kind of the element of mystery about Pan Am, and it's interesting because she ties into all the kind of important political things, I suppose, that Pan Am were involved in. And yeah, she's very, very interesting. One to watch. Pan Am is about, of course, Pan Am Airlines, and in the 1960s, and for me it's very much, it represents a time, you know, the lipstick revolution, you know, where women were at the forefront of huge change, and it's very kind of, just very much about the time, you know, and how Pan Am was involved in very big historical situations like Vietnam. They went into Vietnam, they went into the Bay of Pigs to get, you know, political prisoners out, and it's all, it's basically at the forefront of a time where there was a big change in a generation of people. And for me, the most interesting is that it's centered about these stewardesses and the way in which they were involved so much in that change and in guiding, you know, being the beacon for a generation of women to follow, you know, in the fact that they had freedom and adventure, and they were their own keepers, and they could determine what they wanted in their lives. And it's just interesting to play women at a time that shaped my own life, you know, and the life of the women of my generation. So it's an honor to play, really, because you feel very much that you want to do it justice, and you want to, yeah, make people realize what it meant, because I think you underestimate what it was like for women at that time, and what was going on in the world. And it's an interesting show because it kind of, it very much taps into all those different elements and ties them all together. So yeah, that's Pan Am. I was drawn to, first and foremost, the story, then, you know, the characters, to be presented with these strong, bold women that, you know, I think is such a wonderful, wonderful gift to get as an actor, that you love your character and you respect your character, and you really enjoy giving a good representation of what women are about, you know, and what we're capable of. And I think for a generation now that is completely existentialist, or you can create yourself and be whoever you want on Facebook, on MySpace, and all these different social medias, that you can go back to where it really all began, where you know, certain women in history, and they made a stand and they made a choice to expand their horizons, leading the way to what we have now. And that's an incredible amount of freedom for women and men, and just a generation of people that can do whatever, anything is possible. And I think that was the premise when I read the pilot. It was the feeling that anything is possible, and also it's a story that can evolve in so many different ways. You know, they flew to so many different countries. They have an international, you know, group of women that work for Pan Am, so you can take it so many different ways. And it's the unknown that attracted them is what attracted me as an actor. It was the idea that you could do so much with it, and you do so much with pride because you have these incredibly strong, dynamic, interesting, mysterious, charismatic women. And for me, as an actor, you know, in this day and age, you know, it's few and far between that you fall in love so head over heels for your character. And yeah, I like to think that I'm a strong woman, and I try to present myself like that to the world. And it's just an honor to be given a part where you can justify what you're about and show other women that they can be about that as well.
I play Maggie Ryan, and I am the purser in the flight crew. My character is, when we meet her, she's a beat of a beatnik, but then also leads this double life of being sort of this, you know, put together, perfect this Pan Am stewardess. Pan Am for these women is really all about getting to see the world. They live this life of freedom that so many women at this time, this day and age, didn't get to live. They were in the top percentage of paying jobs for women at this time. They got to travel the world, see places that most women never got to see. Most people in America didn't get to see. And they really were very much living these very liberated lifestyles. You know, they were in control of their lives as much as other men were. Yeah, it's an interesting juxtaposition, because as much as they were living these very liberated lives, kind of in charge of who they were and how they lived their lives, at the same time they were being, you know, they had to, what was mandated to them was how they dressed and how they looked and how much they weighed and how tall they were and all these things. So in a weird way, they were smarter than everybody, like, because by playing by the rules, they then got to lead these glamorous, extravagant lifestyles and have these experiences that you don't think of women as having at that time. It was a very, you know, the world was a much more misogynistic place than it appears to be today. And these women were really sort of breaking that mold by pretending to live in it. The scene today is, they're just filming a bunch of scenes, but mainly we're at the main Pan Am terminal, and it's about everyone getting ready for this big flight, this brand new plane going to London, and my character has been called in last minute, so everybody's kind of getting ready to go on board, and I'm being woken up at home. I get on a helicopter at the Pan Am building in New York, and I'm being rushed to I'm being rushed to Idlewild, which will become JFK, but because it's only 1963, it's not JFK yet, and so. So that's what they're shooting now, is the hubbub of everyone getting ready. What I will be shooting later is the very end of the show, which is us as a flight crew walking off to our next flight.
Nancy Holt-Gannis, executive producer. You know, Pan Am was an extraordinary airline company, actually, because it really created commercial aviation. Juan Trippe, the founder, started back in 1927, and he was a visionary. I often say, much like Steve Jobs, where he pushed the envelope beyond where people thought possible, creating at every step, even beyond the government or anyone else in aviation. He saw the future and just kept pushing us to get there. And if it weren't for him, I don't think we'd have the jet age at all. So I would say that it was both a great company that treated its employees really well, with respect, and hired people. Pan Am hired people that they could trust would represent the company in the best possible way in all parts of the world. It was we were really seen as ambassadors of goodwill. The series begins at the dawn of the Jet Age, at a time when grace and elegance and hope and optimism, in spite of the undercurrent of turmoil and political unease around the world, it was still a time where you thought the possibilities were limitless. And Pan Am sort of represented the world. And they were the world airline that went places nobody else went, to Africa, South America, Asia, Europe. And it was all opening up with new possibilities. And our series is an attempt to capture that spirit, that hope, that optimism, that grace, that elegance, a time of adventure when there were few opportunities for women who were educated, spoke foreign languages, to go off and see the world on their own and be paid well and have an incredible experience. Well, I flew for Pan Am in the late 60s, and I didn't really talk about it very much after I went back to grad school and had another career until about 4 years ago. I'd been thinking about it, that I wanted to maybe write a book or maybe a screenplay or something. And the young people in my office who had been traveling came back after the holidays complaining about travel. And I just said it was nothing like that when I flew for Pan Am. And they said, "You did what?" And so it started where I started to tell the stories. And I said, "Oh my gosh, you have to do something with this." So I sat down and wrote my thoughts, and then got together a group of old friends and did a little documentary about them, having them talk a little bit about their experiences. And that's what launched it. And here we are. There's no one character, there's a little bit of all of them. I would say if there were common denominators in the women I knew, was curiosity, a love of adventure and people, and the opportunity to take the to go into uncharted territory. The incident in Cuba, we have an incident in Cuba that is based on things that actually happened. The emergency airlift of the prisoners who had been held there for over a year after the Bay of Pigs fiasco. I hope that throughout the series we will ground everything with a certain reality of things that really happened, but obviously it's entertainment and fiction, so nothing is going to be exactly on one particular person or one particular event, unless it was so significant. For example, the last flight out of Saigon, the airlift of the babies, something like the Berlin airlift, rescuing people, military coups, terrorist attacks. Those were all real, and as much as possible we will capture those events and times, as well as the fun and the excitement of discovering new places and meeting people along the way. It's, in the truest sense, I'd say it's a little bit like League of Their Own and West Wing, because there's some political significance in what took place, but the women bonded in ways that few women get to do. We weren't competitive with each other, we didn't have to be. We were out there in sort of a male world, and we looked after each other, and we have friendships for life. And I think at a time where women were sort of funneled through a very narrow tunnel of opportunity, here we were out in a world that seemed limitless in what we could do and see independently on our own. And many had other careers, as a result, they either became writers or photographers or designers, journalists. There were a multitude of things to discover and learn and do, and I think we did, not in a competitive sense, but truly as a group of friends. It was very hard to come home and talk about it because it was impossible to describe what that was like. I've often thought it's similar to men who've gone to war and can't really discuss it when they come back. So you just sort of keep your memories to yourself or share with each other. And I think that's true. I mean, we get together and can't stop talking, but it's just really hard to recreate that experience in everyday conversation. Women in the 60s had few opportunities. If you were college educated, spoke a foreign language, what would you do with that? And Pan Am offered this incredible opportunity to go off and use your skills with dignity and grace and a sense of professionalism. You were told that you represented the company both on and off the job, and you took it very seriously to uphold the sort of, had to have high moral standards, the way you walked and talked, and in our manual it said you need to sit like a lady, stand like a model, and walk like a queen. And what that represented was a sense of pride and dignity in what you did, and it reflected in how you treated others and yourself. And I think we've lost some of that, and I think that's sad. And I also think the girdles helped you carry that off because you couldn't really bend very well. But it did. The girls playing the stewardesses said that as soon as they got into that outfit, it just created a certain stature and a stance and a way of walking that just doesn't exist today. So I miss some of that, maybe not the girdle, but I miss the fact that there was this social graces and politeness and courtesy, and you looked at people you gave people the benefit of the doubt. There wasn't the sort of nastiness and snarkiness that we somehow have today. It was a much more optimistic time.
Margot Robbie. I play Laura, and I'm the new recruitment to the Pan Am stewardess group. My older sister Kate is already working, and I kind of follow in her footsteps. No, Laura is American, so I do an American accent when we're filming. She's the youngest out of the group, and she's obviously the least experienced, as she's only just joined. You know, she's sweet and excited to be there, very, you know, wide-eyed about the whole experience, seeing the aeroplanes and being in all the different parts of the world and stuff. It's a whole new world to her, and she's just bubbling with excitement, kind of like I am. This is my first time. We're shooting in New York. It's my first time in New York, so it's I'm walking around the whole time like, oh my God, this is amazing, and so is my character, so it works really well. It's set in 1963, and it kind of follows the lives of the stewardesses and the pilots working on the Pan Am, you know, flights. It's a very well-written, intelligent sort of drama, I suppose. It kind of incorporates the political things that were going on at the time. You know, it's got the Cold War and kind of integrates the Cuban Missile Crisis into the pilot's storyline. And it's also got the, you know, the really fun stuff of the 60s, and it kind of brings back the glam and the glamour of flying the way it used to be in those days. The stewardesses were, you know, decked out and perfect, and people were really excited to fly because it was this whole new thing. And it's really great. It's so much fun to film, and the costumes and hair and everything are very fun for a girl. So Pan Am is set in 1963. Well, I picked up the script, and a few pages in, I remember thinking, this is brilliant. Like, this is going to be a big deal, and, you know, fingers crossed it is. But it's just a very, very well written piece. It's set in my favourite era. It's, you know, it's interesting and dynamic, and you just got a bit of everything, and it's just very, very well written. I really like that it incorporated the political aspects, but still kept it all fun and glamorous, you know. Today we are filming with the green screens and doing the airport terminal sort of things. I don't actually have any speaking today, which is a nice break. I just got to walk through and look pretty. But it's my first time seeing our virtual set, so it's very exciting. They've got some new technology. Okay, so this new technology kind of lets the directors and the camera operators see the virtual world when they're looking into the camera, instead of, you know, we're in a room full of green, and usually in post they add in, you know, whatever's green becomes the virtual set sort of thing. But this is new in that you can look through the camera and see it immediately. You can pull focus to the virtual world, which is really quite incredible. So it's very exciting to see it all firsthand.